Earlier today, a member asked a question, and another member asked the same question about 3 weeks ago. So it's not a question that gets asked a lot, but I just want to clarify, when you're actually making a profit, the profits will accumulate and the losses will accumulate. Now, what I mean by that is, if I just show you on this race, I've not analysed the charts or anything. So let's just make a profit first, and I'll show you what I mean. So let's say you're scalping your place to trade on the back bet, place to trade on the lay bet side. I'll pause the video until these two are taken. Okay, so as you can see, both trades have been taken, the back bet and the lay bet, and at this moment in time, we've got a profit of £1.89. Now, the member that asked the question is saying, well, if I lock in this profit, and I'll just do that. So I've cashed out, so currently I made a profit of £1.89. Now the member was asking, that profit's now locked in, so I can continue to trade. Now you can continue to trade, and I'll do the same. So currently I've made £1.89, and as you can see, the back trade's been taken. The lay trade has not yet been taken, but the price is moving against me. I've not analysed the charts, as I say. So what I'm saying is that initial profit that you locked in is now being eaten away. So even though you made the initial profit, if you continue to trade on the same race, then any losses will then come off the original profit. It has to, because it's pre-race trading, and you're placing back bets and you're placing lay bets. So as far as Betfair's concerned, they don't know about scalping, they don't care about scalping. All they'll see at the end of the race, if you've placed a number of back bets, you've placed a number of lay bets, and they'll look at the prices where you place these, and you'll either make a profit or a loss. So even though you can lock in a profit when you've made a back bet and a lay bet, if you continue to trade, as I have done here, then you can see the price is moving against me. So now I'm at a loss of £1.82, £3.57. So even though you've locked in the profit...
This event will start in 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Even though you've locked in the profit by continuing to trade, any losses will then come off that profit you've made. Which makes sense, because even though you've made a profit, you've continued to trade, and then you've made a loss. So that loss will then come off the profit you've made. It's not locked in. It's not a case that at the end of the race, Betfair will then pay you your £2 you've made. They will combine any back bets, they'll combine any lay bets, and they'll check the prices where you place these back and lay trades, and if you made a profit, they'll pay you your profit. The profit is only locked in if you click the cash out, move on to the next race. If you continue to trade, then you can make a loss, even though initially you made a profit. And as you can see, both trades have been taken, and I'm currently at a profit of £3.81. So what's happened there is the first profit of £1, whatever it was, has now been added to the second set of scalps, again of £1.70, whatever it was. It's combined to make a profit now of £3.77. But again, if I continue to trade, then if I make a loss, then that loss will come off this £3.77. So if I cash out, which I have done, if I now do this again, a back bet and a lay trade, you can see the lay trade's been taken. So if this price now moves against me, and you can see the red figures here, the minuses, any losses will then come off the original profit. And in this situation, you can see the back trade's been taken. So that's made a profit now of £5.66. But that £5.66 is an accumulation of 3 trades I've made. £1.70, £1.70, £1.40, or whatever it was, which has led to this position of being at a profit. But again, if I continue to trade, if I make a loss, then that loss will come off this profit. So that's how it works. As far as Betfair is concerned, they don't care that we're scalping. All they're seeing is a series of back bets, a series of lay bets, and at the end of the race, when the race is concluded, they will analyse your back bets, analyse your lay bets, and see if a profit's been made. So if I cash out now, I've guaranteed this profit. So at this moment in time, I've guaranteed that £5.70 profit. Because as far as Betfair is concerned, I've placed the back bets, the lay bets, I've bought them and sold them at different prices. So in between that, I've generated a profit of £5.70. But if I continue to trade, for example, if I do this again, and if the price goes against me, let's say the back trade gets taken, well, the lay trade's been taken. Lay trade's been taken, so if the price now drops to say 4.6, then I'll be in a deficit of £5.17. So even though I originally had a profit of £5 or whatever it was, if the price goes against me because I've continued to trade, then any losses will come off that original profit. And yet again, as you can see, a profit's been made. So I've made 4 sets of scalps there, 4 sets of profits, all of them about £1.40 to £1.70. They've all been combined together, and now I'm in a position of a profit at £7.55. But again, if I continue to trade, if I make, let's say, a 1 tick loss, this may go down to £6 because you continue to trade. But at this moment in time, if I cash out, I have locked in that profit. So if I move away from this race onto the next race, I'm guaranteed to make that. But if I continue to trade on this very same race,
this event
for
will
example,
start in 60 seconds. 60 seconds.
For example, if I now move the favourite or the third favourite and continue to trade, if I make a £2 loss here, then that £2 will come off to £7.58. So it does accumulate, but it's only locked in if you've cashed out finally and then move on to the next race. By continuing to trade, then there's a possibility that any losses on subsequent trades will come off the profit. Let's just see if I can do that.
This event starts in 30 seconds.
It's about to start. Place the trade there. Let's see if we can make this happen before the trade starts. I've not analysed the chart, so I'm just trying to explain the situation. So on this horse, I've made £7.58 in 4 separate scalps.
10 seconds.
And currently, the first trade on the first favourite is going against me slightly. So that loss is now coming off the profit I originally made on the second horse. As you can see, the price is going against me. So this loss, £2.78, is now coming off the £7.58, which I made on that second favourite. So it does accumulate. The losses will come off the profits, or the profits will be added to previous profits. But as long as you cash out before the race starts, then you've locked in that. If you continue to trade, if you trade 20 more times, then there'll be pluses, there'll be minuses. And whatever figure you're left with at the start of the race, before the race goes in play, and you cash out, will be your profit. Let's just see if that gets taken. But you can see I'm in a slight deficit. So that slight deficit has come off that £7.58 I've made. So I'll try and break even on that before the race starts.
This event is now in play.
Okay, so it's gone in play. So what I'll do now is cash out. Okay, so I've cashed out. I'd have made £24 because I let the race go in play, which is not what this course is about. But what I'm trying to explain, the profit you've made is locked in at the moment you've locked it in. If you continue to trade, then any negatives or any losses on the other horses, or even the same horse, will come off that figure. Okay, I hope that. On this video, I'm going to explain the incremental size differences between the different odds on Betfair. Now, the highest price you can achieve on Betfair is 1,000, i.e. if a horse loses the race, then the odds it will achieve is 1,000. If a horse wins the race, then the lowest odds it will achieve is 1.01, as you can see. Now, because the highest price is 1,000, the lowest is 1.01, this may lead you to believe that there must be 1,000 different prices. Not so. The Betfair structure on the odds means that they actually give you 351 different prices to choose from. Now what this means, and what this must mean, is that at certain price points, the incremental price differences must be higher at some points, and it must be lower at other points, and this is true. If you look at the ladder here, you'll see 1.01 is the lowest price, then it goes to 1.02, 1.03, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's actually moving up in increments of 0.01. Now if I scroll up to 2.0, which is evens, you will then see the incremental changes are 0.02, i.e. 2.02, 2.04, 6, 8, etc. Then when it reaches 3, it jumps in 0.05, 3.05, 3.10, 3.15, 3.20. Then it reaches 4, it jumps in 0.10, 4.1, 4.2, 3, 4. And then at 5 it doesn't change, so 5 is not an incremental size change. The next jump is actually 6. Now if you look on the software, you'll see BetEngine will actually highlight these points in orange. You can see 4, 3, 2, but at 5 there's no change. So when the price reaches 4.9, then reaches 5, it's still going up in 0.10 of a point, 5.1, 5.2, 5.3. Then when it reaches 6, it jumps again. So rather than point 10, it's actually moving up in point 20 of a point, 6.2, 6.4, 6.6, 6.8, etc. So as the price is increasing, these incremental price changes increase also. So if you look at 20, it then goes to 21, there's no points involved. 21, 22, 23. So the lower the price, the smaller the incremental change. Where this affects you as a scalper or affects you as a trader is that if you're trying to scalp higher priced horses, i.e. a favourite at 6, and you place a back trade at say 6.2 and then a lay trade at 6, then the difference is 0.20. If you do the same on a lower price favourite, let's say you place a back trade at 1.10 and then a lay trade at 1.9, obviously the difference is minuscule. There's a lot less profit to be made on lower priced horses. That's just the way it is, and that's why on some of the videos you'll hear me say I'm not going to make much money here because the price is a low favourite. But for example, if you look at 6.0 here, you'll see below 6.0 it's increments of 0.10, i.e. 5.9, 5.8, 5.7. Then above 6.0 it's increments of 0.20, 6.2, 6.4, 6.6. Some people do try to trade by hovering around say 5.9, waiting for the lay side to actually push through the barrier. So the difference obviously between 0.10 and 0.20 is a higher profit. So some traders will sit there and hover around these incremental changes, hoping for the price breakthrough. That's the way they trade. But what you may notice sometimes is if, for example, on the lay side, the price is approaching 6.0, and let's say it reaches 5.9, it may take a little bit longer to break through the resistance of 6.0 because of the incremental price changes. But you do get people sat there around these price points, and when you see the liquidity sat there, obviously if you're trying to do a lay trade or a back trade, it can take a little bit longer to get through them resistance points. So there can be a bit of an annoyance sometimes, because if the lay trade is drifting up or if the back trade is steaming down and you come to these resistance points, then it can slow you down. Where people make money doing this is because of the incremental changes. If you look again at the 5.6, 5.7, 5.8, if the price on the lay side breaks through 6.0, then the incremental changes are 0.20 rather than 0.10. So if the price reaches that point, then if you place a lay trade at 6.2, you're going to make more profit than placing it at 5.2, because the incremental changes are obviously a lot higher. So that's why these traders sit there waiting for these breakthrough points on the incremental changes, and profit can be made, there's no doubt about it. If you're a kind of trader that trades on the drifting, i.e. the price is going up on the lay side, then it makes sense to actually place the lay trade where the incremental changes are higher rather than lower. So they'll sit there around these points waiting for that to happen. So there's no doubt money can be made, but that's a different way of trading, and it's not the way I'm trying to explain it here. There is a particular method I use, and it does use incremental price points, incremental changes, but that's for a later stage. At this stage, just be aware that they are there, and just be aware that when you're doing scalping, that the higher the price, the larger the difference between the ticks, which means the more profit you can make. But it also means that you need a higher betting bank, because the lay side, if you place a lay bet, then obviously the higher the price, the higher the liability, which means the higher the amount of money you're going to need in your Betfair account. Now at some stage I will go into a bit more detail on these incremental price points and how they can be beneficial as well as detrimental in some situations. But for now, just be aware that they are there, and be aware that the higher the price that you're trying to scalp, the more profit can be made, usually the more liability you're going to need in your Betfair account. Okay, thank you. On this video, I just want to show an example of where a price struggles to break through one of these incremental price changes. Now you can see here in the second favourite, even though I've made a profit on it, you can see at 4.0 there's £25,000 been placed, and it struggled to break through that, and that's why the favourite keeps on steaming down, as you can see, because this second favourite is struggling. You can see it's reaching now,
This event starts in 30 seconds.
and then it's bouncing back off it because it takes quite a bit of force to get through these points. because the incremental price changes are a lot higher. And you can see money sat either side, and it's just bouncing, continually bouncing off 4.0, as you can see. So money's being placed there, but the back bet side does not have the confidence to break through there. You can see it keeps touching it, but it's not breaking through it. So the price, the short-term liquidity is between 4 and 4.3. It's tried to break through there, but just won't do that. And that means when there's an incremental price point on the horse you're trading, or potentially trading, and you can see on the first favourite, they've not got an incremental price point. And that's why the range has been steaming down consistently. And then it's bouncing back up. Because the second favourite's approaching the incremental price point, but it's not breaking through there. So if it approaches it, the first favourite's odds will then drift up. But as it bounces back off it, then the first favourite odds will then steam down again. And it's quite interesting to watch. So just be aware of this. It's approaching the incremental price point, but there's not enough confidence in the market to break through there. So it's continually touching it, and then it's bouncing back off it, which means the first favourite is then steaming and drifting, steaming and drifting. And it's a perfect example. Okay, thank you. Hi everyone. On a video above I mentioned about the incremental price points and how they can affect the trading, and that generally in basic scalping I don't take a great deal of notice of them, but there definitely are situations where you need to take notice of the incremental price changes. Now you can see here this is the first favourite. Second favourite is quite a wide away, so it's a massive odds on currently, this favourite here. It's a highly fancied horse. Now you can see that above where the current price is 1.93, you've got an incremental price point, in this instance being 2.0. Second favourite, the closest is incremental price point is 6. And then on the third favourite you got 10. And the fourth favourite you got 10. Now, as you can see, this is approaching possibly the top end of its short-term liquidity. Now you may think to watch for the liquidity to reduce on the lay side and then place the bet, but as you can see there, it's gone through an incremental price point, which means potentially this could now drift. Now this is what you need to be cautious of. Once it goes through these price points, the horse can drift. Because there's resistance to get through these price points, incremental price points, it means that there's some...
starts in 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Apologies for that. Once it gets through the price points, it means that there's some momentum to push through these, because there's always resistance, because you get people sat on the lay side waiting for the prices to reach this. If you place your trade at the top of this range here, this short-term range, then as you can see, you'll have had a problem, because the price has jumped through the incremental price point and it's continued to drift. And the reason for that is one of the other horses will be coming in. So always be aware around these price points, incremental price points, because it is resistance, so it takes a fair bit of pressure to get through them, which means if there's momentum behind that pressure, it can continue to drift. So if you're looking at laying a horse at the top of its range and it's approaching or at or near an incremental price point, then just be cautious. You can see the second favourite here is approaching its incremental price point of 6 on a downward steam. Now because we've broken through this on the first favourite, chances are this could continue to drift. So just be aware that if you're looking at trading one of the horses that's near the incremental price point and it's at the top of its range, if it breaks through that, then you could have a problem, because like I said, the momentum required to break through this price point is quite high, which means it could continue to drift. So even though you've got in at the top of its range, if it's just approaching or just hovering around this incremental price point, then just have caution regarding your trading, because then you get a situation where the price could drift, especially if the second or third or even fourth favourite has broken through their incremental price point. Now on a different race you can see the favourites at 3.3, it's above the incremental price point and it's at the top of its range. But you'll see the second favourite, which was originally the third favourite, get this in order, you can see it's approaching an incremental price point. Now if this breaks through that 6.0, which again requires pressure on the downward side, then chances are this first favourite is going to continue to steam. So just be aware of that. Now if, for example, the price touches 6.2 and 6.0 and bounces back, say there's not enough momentum to break through that. Now you can see the liquidity at 6 is 2.8, at 6.2 it's 4.1 thousand pounds. So it's not broken through that, but if it does, then the price on the favourite could continue to drift. But what could happen is that the second favourite price could again approach 6.0 and it could bounce back off. Now this is what I'd look for. You can see the first favourite is continuing to drift. It's broken through its short-term range, you can see that. The bulk of the money was at 26.7 thousand at 3.4, 3.35, 6.7 thousand. I'm always watching the incremental price points on the other horses which are related and close enough in odds to attract some liquidity. Now you can see this is now bouncing off, it's continuing to drift up. So I'd be watching possibly for these first favourites to start to steam at some stage. So I'm watching the incremental price points on the other three horses in sequence to the favourite. You can see 6.6 currently. There's this price point here. If it breaks through that, then chances are the favourite is going to continue to drift. But if it bounces back off that, once it approaches it, then the favourite, it means there's not enough confidence in the market to break through 6.0. And you can see it's not done that so far. It's hovered around 6.6 to 6.2, the bulk of the short-term range. But the favourite is continuing to drift. So I'd be watching these price points as well as the other triggers and indicators which I advise. And you can see here at 3.7, £23,000 been traded. And it's struggling to break through that, so this could potentially be a trigger to place the, you can see, the price started to steam down. So let's just see what happens. You can see the momentum, the short-term range, the liquidity on the back bet side is a lot higher. And that's not always a true indicator because we're looking at short-term liquidity. But you can see on the other horses, it's struggling to break through the pressure points. The short-term incremental ranges on the right-hand side, you can see, it's just not broke through that. So it's not getting through the incremental price change. So potentially this could bounce back off it because there's not enough confidence in the market to break through this. And you see the third favourite again at 7.4, the bulk of the liquidity is at 7.4, 7.6. It's struggling slightly to get through that. Now if this starts coming in, because it breaks through the short-term liquidity on the downward steam, then potentially the favourite could again drift. So you're watching for these indicators. Now I could push that £200 up
60 seconds. 60 seconds.
and make a profit at 2.86. So I'm watching, if this breaks through 6.2, which it is doing, then that's why the first favourite is starting to drift up even more. So at this stage you may want to get out or break even at 0.0. So what I'm trying to show you in this video is that there's other indicators based around the short-term liquidity and the incremental price points. So just be aware of where the secondary and third and fourth horses are.
30 seconds. In 30 seconds.
Regarding the incremental price points and their short-term liquidity. If they're at the bottom of the ranges and they break through them ranges, then chances are the horse you're actually trading could potentially drift. If on the reverse of that, let's say the second favourite, the third and fourth starts to drift, then chances are your horse which you traded will start to steam down. So all this combined gives you a good idea of how the market's reacting, which horses is coming in, where the pressure's coming from. But these incremental price points are important, so just bear in mind, and I'm going to take that profit at 2.86, which I've done. Okay, thank you. Hi everyone, just to show you particular races where I wouldn't trade and wouldn't touch. I'm just doing some casual scalping over the festive period. I've actually made some easy profits today actually so far, because there's a lot of mug punters hanging around Okay, so 28th of December, 2:15, this particular race, 7 minutes to go. You can see the favourite is 1.56. It's a ridiculously low price. There's no money in that, because even if you place £200 trades, there's nothing there. There's no money in it. Now, if I pull the candle chart in, you'll see on the favourite, Missy Tata, you'll see it's not really gained a high position at all, 1.76 maximum, but it's hovering around 1.5, 5.8, 5.9 for example. There's just no money there, it's pointless. Then you've got the second favourite here, 3.6. Just pull the chart and you can see it's doing nothing. Possibility of a static market, but I don't really see any point unless this was to rise to maybe 4, 4.5. There's not really a great point. So this is one race where I just wouldn't trade it. There's no money there, as you know. Ideally you need to be focusing on the favourites, but at 1.56, why? There's just no money there, there's no point. There's a lot of races today, and the races previous to this one, the profits are made very, very easily. I'm making like 3, 4 to £10 inside seconds. So when you come across a race where there's no money there, or the risk is just too high, this is at the bottom of its trading range, and it looks like it's dropping further. There's no money there. You might think, well, I can place a back trade and continue the downward steam, but what's the point? There's no money there. The incremental price changes are so minuscule at this level that even with £100, £150 trades, there's just no profit there. Then you look in the second favourite. If this was at the highest point it's been, i.e. it reached 4, I'd be tempted to follow this and see where the pressure's coming from, any downward pressure. But what I'm saying is certain races are just not worth it. There's nothing there, there's no pressure, there's not enough profit to be made on the favourite, so just leave them and move on to the next race. The beauty with trading, especially in the UK and Ireland, there's so many races in a day, and it starts quite early at this time of year because it's dark night, so the racing starts earlier. But there's so many races to choose from that you don't need to systematically go from race to race. You can look at the situation and decide if it's worthwhile trading. Now this is not worthwhile because there's just no money there, and on the second favourite you can see it's fairly static. It's just under 5 minutes left and nothing's happening. There's a slight rise there, but unless it drifts to the top of its trading range and then I can see pressure on a downward steam, there's just no point. So in this situation I would move on to the next race. Just to add a section to this, even though there's not a great deal of profit to be made when the price is so low, 1.59 etc., the price profits between say 1.58, 1.57, there's nothing. You make 2, 3, 4, 5 pence. But when you're starting out, you can see here, I've actually stopped the video, it's at the top of its short-term liquidity. So when you're starting out, it may be a situation where you can practice because the losses are minimal and the profits are minimal. So when you're starting out, you may choose to use lower prices because the chances of the trades getting taken quickly are very high. The chances of losses are very low because the incremental price changes mean that any losses are going to be minuscule as well as the profits. So when you start out, you can practice at lower priced horses. Now here would be ideal because the favourite's actually reached the height of its short-term liquidity and it looks like it's going to actually steam down. So the difference between the points are very low. So practicing purposes, it may be ideal to do that because there's hardly any losses that can be made. But equally, there's hardly any profits that can be made. But for you to actually practice and see how the process works, then it may be ideal to do that on short-priced favourites. But once you actually start making money, and you will start making money soon, you'll realise and appreciate that the lower-priced horses, there's very little profit to be made. So you'll find yourself skipping past them to races where the profits are higher. But for starting out and practicing purposes, this would be ideal. Okay, thank you. Okay, one of the emails I get are people asking, is there a surefire way of scalping? Is there a particular race where you look at and you think there's a definite profit to be made? Now, as with trading, there's no guarantees, but one of the scenarios I look at a short price favourite. And I can see on the screen his favourite is 1.27, 1.28. It's obviously a massively fancied horse for whatever reason. And you can see the second favourite's at 5.5. There's quite a distance between the first two horses. Now these kind of races stand out a mile to me. You can see there's 1 minute 20 before the start of this race. And what usually happens is when there's a massively favoured horse, two things will usually happen. There's not a great deal of money to be made on there. So what you find is a lot of lay bettors will lay this horse because it's low liability when you're laying at this price and there's money to be made on the lay side. So they will lay this horse and hope to make some decent profits. So what usually happens is in the last 5 minutes, the price will start rising on the low price favourite. And this means the second horse or the third favourite, the price will generally start to drop. And you can see on that second horse, Otter Moon, it has done. The short-term range is 5.6 and it's gradually started to come down in price. You can see that. The range is between 5.6 and 4.9. So it's at a slight high point as far as pressure points are concerned, but you can see there at 5.6, the price dropped all the way down to 5.1. You can see on the candle chart. So as a trader, as a scalper, we'd have been looking at that at 5.6 to place the trade because we can see that the first favourite price is rising. It's reaching the top of its range. And the second favourite price started to drop. You can see on the chart. The price started to rise. So the second favourite price started to decline and steam down. So at this moment is when you'd place your trade to make the profit. Just to show you another race here, it's 7 minutes to go for the start of this race. So the favourite is at 1.79 as you can see. It's not run for 661 days, but it come first and second last time out. Second favourite, 32 days. So the other horses are a lot fresher than this first favourite, but it did win and come second last time out. So you can see the odds at 1.78. You can see it's bottomed out completely. So I would be looking at this race and I'd be thinking, there's not a great deal of money to be made on this first favourite. So the lay bettors may come in and start pumping money, liquidity on the lay side, looking to take the price up. And the second favourite, I'd be looking, you can see it's approaching the top of its range. Third favourite come third. Fourth favourite didn't do a great deal neither. So yeah, I'd be looking at the second favourite here, second and third favourite, to see what's happening liquidity wise. So 1.78 on the first favourite, as you can see. So I'd be possibly expecting that to creep up in that final 5 minutes. You can see it's a short-term range between 1.8, 1.78. The bulk of the money's been placed there. So there's not a great deal of confidence either way that it's going to steam or going to drift. But just watch what might happen in this last final 5 minutes. And this is what I always look for. And this is as close to a surefire thing as you can get. If that first favourite starts to drift, i.e. price moving up, then I'll be watching the pricing on the second and the third horse. Because if the price on the favourite starts to go up, then the other horse's prices will come down. It has to equalise, so there's going to be pressure from somewhere else. So you can see the price is starting to rise slightly. It's gone from 1.77 to 1.8. So it started to happen, and you can see a massive rise there, drift. So I'm watching the second favourite, and you can see it started to steam down, as he explained. And this happens so often. And you might be thinking now, well, on his first favourite, I'll place a trade because it's drifting. And it's got to come down. But with the price being so low, I avoid this. But you may think, well, I'll place a trade here, you might think. Like that. I wouldn't generally place a trade there, but you may think that the price is rising. It has to drop at some stage. But with a favourite being such a short price, I would never generally do that. I would look to make the profit on the second and the third horse, because that price, one of them horses, or one horse, the price will be steaming down for the favourite to be drifting such erratically. And with the price being so low anyway in the favourite, I wouldn't generally place a trade there. There's no real money there to be made. And you can see it's continuing to drift. And this happens so often that, like I say, it's as close to a surefire thing as you're going to get. And you can see on the second favourite there, you could have placed a trade at maybe 5.1. You can see it's gone all the way up, it's coming all the way back down. It's erratic. And as you can see, it's gone back up again. But the second favourite has continued a downward decline. And that's where the money will have been made. You could have placed a trade at 5.1 at the top of its range, and you'd have made quite a few tick profits. So you can see that trade I've placed there, which I shouldn't have done. I wouldn't generally place that trade there. I'm way out of range now, but that second favourite, Jack Black, you can see it's continued its downward steam. So you could have placed at 5.1, knowing full well that the price is going to drop. Because the odds-on favourite, it started at odds-on, has continued to drift. And you can see again, it came down and it's continued to drift again. Because there's no money there, so lay bettors are trying to force the price up. And that's where, because the second favourite, the price is so far away from the first favourite, the tick increment and the profit in the tick increment is a lot higher. So that's where you can make some decent money. But you can see it mirrors the first favourite, the price has drifted up. Second favourite, it's steamed down, almost in tandem. And this happens a lot. So what you could potentially do is filter your races. Especially if you're starting out, you may want to look for these type of races because, like I said, it's almost a surefire thing. It's a surefire way to make a profit. And look how far it's dropped from 5.1. It's now 3.85. There's a lot of tick profits there. Now the first favourite is not odds on anymore. It's drifted that much. And the second favourite's come all the way down. Long-term charts you'll see. You can see there, Jack Black has steamed all the way down. And that's because the first favourite has drifted all the way up, as you can see. And the amount of times this happens, you can get consistent. If you filter the kind of races, these type of races, to look for these short price favourites with quite a distance between the first and the second horse, this happens a lot. So if you wanted to make sure that you go off to a flying start, you may wish to look at these type of races first. And you can do that. You can look at all the races on the racing cards of the day and see which races have got short price favourites. And then you just monitor the liquidity. At some stage, usually in the last 5 minutes, the price is going to rise, or it may already be at the top of its range. But you can see that before you jump in and start trading. And if it's already at the top of its range, at some stage, potentially it's going to steam down on the first favourite. But I'm inclined not to look at first favourites of, 1.8, 1.9, because there's not a great deal of money there. But there is a lot of movement, as you can see there. The first favourite has now steamed down. The second favourite has now drifted all the way back up. So it swings quite often. But what your job will be is getting at the right time and look at the pressure points and then take advantage, because the favourites drifting when it's such a short price is so common that you can take advantage of that. And I advise you look for them type of races to generate some kind of consistency, because it's not difficult. You can just see it happening a lot, especially in the last 5 minutes when the last race is finished. Let's say the last race is just finished, all the traders will then jump onto the next race, and that's why the pricing becomes so erratic, and that's why there's so much liquidity entering the market in that last 5 minutes, and you can take advantage. Obviously, I'm at a loss here. I wouldn't generally have traded that. So what I might do is take it in play and get that money back. As you can see, I've took it in play and I've got my money back. But yeah, like I say, it happens so often, short price favourites, and if there's a distance between the second favourite, then look for that. And that is a definite trigger to take advantage of. Okay, thank you. Another example of this massive odds-on situation. Now you can see the first favourite has drifted already, even though there's 8 minutes left before the start of this race. It's drifted, and the second favourite has steamed. So you may think, well, you missed the boat on this one. The same scenario happened. A large, massive odds-on favourite drifted. The second horse steamed, as you can see there on both the respective candle charts. But there's still 8 minutes left, so there's still possibility to make a profit. And as you can see, that Mon Parain is going out of contention as far as the odds are concerned. And it just shows you how wrong sometimes the bookmakers get this in this crazy world of gambling and trading. And I just want to see what happens on this race, because chances are, if the odds on the favourite have drifted already, there's going to be more opportunities. And you can see on the third horse as well, Helpston, that has steamed down as well. So the second and the third favourite horses have steamed, which means the favourite, the original first favourite, has drifted massively. So let's see what happens here. It's 7 minutes for the start of this race. The second favourite's at 4.5, the third favourite 8.6, well now 8.2. So there's a lot of movement on this race. It's 1.79. Some traders may think, well, if I place a back bet here, the price has to come down. But when you look at the odds, and then you look at the form of the horse, the form is crap. There's no reason why this favourite should be the favourite of this race. Absolutely no reason. But you look at the candle chart and it's drifted, it's steamed, it's drifted, and it's steaming again. Then you look at Man of Steel, the second favourite, that's steamed all the way down, and it's drifted, and it's steamed again. So what we're looking for is movement, and that's happening. And we've got a good distance between the start of this race in which to make a few quid. But look at the form. 5th, 2nd, 1st, 5th. There's no reason for this horse to be such a massive odds on. No reason at all. And I won't be surprised if it loses this race. But as we're traders on the pre-race, let's see what we can do. There was a massive jump down there in price. You can see that, a massive steam down. So a shed load of liquidity came in on the back bet side, which forced the price down. And that's why Man of Steel has drifted up. You can see, again, it's working in tandem. And then there was a massive spike up on the favourite, you can see. Now because there was a massive spike up, I'm expecting the second favourite price to come down at least a tick to take a profit. So that's why I placed a trade there. As you can see, that's happened. It's come down at least a tick. And that was all because this massive odds-on favourite drifted. There's no other explanation. The value is not on this first horse, it's on the second and the third horse. But Helpston is 7.2, so it's not really in the range of the odds where I would trade. But this second horse, Man of Steel, that is definitely within the range. But yeah, yet again you can see these odds-on favourites, especially when you check the form factor, how fit the horse is when it last raced, when it last won. And it just shows you straight away, there's no reason why this horse should be anywhere near 1.81. Well, it was actually at one stage 1.6-ish. And as you can see, it's drifted all the way up. And you can expect it, because traders and gamblers are going to check the form, the previous form of the horses. And if they can't see any indicating factors as to why it's such a low price, then they are going to lay it. And a lot of people are going to lay it, and that's why the price has drifted into the stratosphere. And that's why the second horse and the third horse has come down in price. And it's so predictable that it's like taking candy from a baby sometimes when you see this. And the consistency level on this is fantastic, it really is. And it's something I use a lot. So even though the first horse, the price has drifted, it's going to steam. And then it's going to drift again, for the same reason it drifted in the first place. Which means the second favourite and the third favourite are going to drift and steam for them exact same reasons. Because the pressure is coming on the second and the third horse to push the price up. If the favourite, it's common sense. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand what's happening. So you can see there, Man of Steel has reached a high price again. So I'm expecting it to drop, and it has. There you go, the profit was made pretty much straight away because the price on the first favourite drifted. So we expected the second favourite's price to steam, and it happened within seconds. And it's so predictable that if you're watching the liquidity and the pressure, and you can see the third horse there, Helpston, has bottomed out. So I wouldn't touch that, but I would keep an eye on it just to see if it's going to drift back up. And if it stays bottomed out and it's the second horse continues to steam down or the first horse continues to drift, it may be you can see then straight away which horse is creating the pressure. As you can see, the candle charts is showing you this. It's so simple to see, really. So the favourite price is starting to steam, and that's because the second and third favourite is starting to drift. But it's so erratic, and because the favourite's got no form behind it, then traders and gamblers are going to start testing where the price can move to. They're going to test and they're going to lay this horse because there's no reason. If it had won its last two races, let's say it came second, first and third, then maybe it'd be valid, it'd have some credentials behind it. But you can see now the first favourite's starting to steam because the second and third horse is starting to drift. As you can see, Man of Steel has won this race pretty much, but you've got to try not to get too greedy in this game. We're trading, not gamblers. Let's take our profit, move on to the next race. But yet again, you can see these short price favourites and how predictable and how profitable they can be. Okay, thank you. Okay, another example of these short price favourites. You can see Paradise Cove here. If I click the form, you can see its form was 5th, then 4th. And it ran 21 days ago. But it's a massive odds on favourite, even though its form is ridiculous. Second favourite, form is a little better, came third last time out, ran 13 days ago. There's only 4 horses in this race. Form 7th on the third, and the 4th horse is no form. So you can see there's no reason for this horse to be the odds it is. Now if you look at the candle chart, if I zoom in, you can see it's drifted, it's steamed all over the place, and it's starting to steam down again. But there's 7 minutes for the start of this race. Let's just see what happens. I've not traded it yet. But I'm thinking, my way of thinking is, punters, gamblers are going to look at this, they're going to look at the form, and they're going to think, there's no real reason why Paradise Cove should be a 1.49 favourite. So they'll log into this race, and they'll be thinking, any one of these 4 horses can win this race. Even though Paradise Cove has got the odds on, there's no reason, there's no form guide to show why it's an odds on favourite. So I'll pause the video and let's just see what happens. 5 minutes before the start of this race, and you can see that the favourite started to drift up, and the second favourite at the same time steamed down. So that was the opportunity to make the profit on this race. It wasn't a massive steam, it wasn't a massive drift, but it was enough to make a couple of ticks profit. I didn't trade it, I'm just watching what's happening just to show you an example and a demonstration. There's still 4 minutes left, so I'll pause the video again. Okay, exact same thing happened. You can see there's just under 2.5 minutes before the start of this race. The favourite, you can see it drifted, and at the same time the second favourite steamed all the way down. So it was around 5.6. Look how far it steamed, and it's continuing to do so. So the favourites continue to drift, second favourites continue to steam down. It's predictable, guys. It happens in probably 90% of the time when there's a massive odds-on favourite with no credentials behind it. There's just no reason why that horse has got the odds it has. And the market knows this, and this is where you can manipulate it and wait for the opportunities. And you can see it happened exactly the same. It drifted all the way up from 1.46 to 1.63, and the second favourite steamed all the way down. And now it's reversing the trend. So what your job is to watch this and watch the opportunities, because it happens so often that it really is predictable. So the race is now about to start, and the opportunity has come and gone. So this is what you need to watch for. Watch for the form, the credentials on a favourite. If it's not any reason why it should be that kind of odds, then watch the second favourite, because the incremental price changes between the ticks are a lot higher, and that's where you make your profit.
This event starts in 30 seconds. In 30 seconds.
So you can see the price drifted on the favourite. The second price steamed from 5.3 to 4.2. Massive ticks and massive profits. And it happens a lot. Okay, thank you.